Well, class, we are in week 16, finals week. We are done. And I really want to say how much I enjoyed so many of the papers and the perspectives that many of you have in my class. I really enjoy teaching this class. I mean, I enjoy teaching all the classes I teach, but I feel that, what I liked about having you guys write your opinions on the Neil Ferguson video about why the West dominated as opposed to China, at least in the past, right, as he's mentioning, is to get us to think about those kind of questions. Some of you really were convinced by his ideas, all of them. Others that I've been reading in your papers were highly skeptical of what he had to say, and then many agreed with some and disagreed with others. I've had a love-hate relationship with Neil Ferguson's views, but I really do enjoy the kind of discussions that he creates and the way that I've tackled. I've watched him in interviews and debates and read some of his works, and I think he gets a great discussion going. And this is something that I want to really kind of stress about, thinking about how we get information and what we do with it. Neil Ferguson and I have very opposite politics. I will out myself as a very anti-empire person. I'm not a person who likes the idea of nation states dominating over weaker ones. I happen to be lucky enough to be in the one that dominates as opposed to being dominated, but then that comes with other sets of problems. Terrorism or resistance to empires are also a part of that equation. You stir up a bee's or a hornet's nest, and you will be able to take the honey, but you will get some stings. Maybe that's not the best illustration, but this is my kind of moral or ethical or my own issue about empires, and just the question of is it right to just to do something to another state because you have the power, like hey, I can beat up somebody, so I need $20, give it to me. But some call me naive and talk about getting up with the program of the real world politics, and that's fair. My point is that what I'd like you to realize, I hope from this class, is that you don't always have to agree with the kind of political persuasions or biases of historians or news sites, and still learn a lot from them when they give you quality information, when there is not fake news. That's a debate of what that even means, right? But when we're talking about people who really have a handle on the sources, and then they're going to make a thesis argument based on verifiable sources. And so, a magazine like The Economist I find to be very, very insightful, even though they advocate a worldview, the editors, that I am also opposed to. But I always recommend everybody to take a read of The Economist. My biggest problem with The Economist is that it costs so much to buy. I find information from news sources like Democracy Now! Also very biased, but quality sources of information. So in the era of this debate over fake news and what it means, I think this is something I just want to remind us as we kind of end the semester. Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC and all this is truly garbage in terms of information. Is it fake? It's not quality. That's the problem. Fake news, I think, to be real simple, is the National Enquirer. It's always been, right? It's literally made up news, And then the problem somehow now on the internet, especially, people have actually turned the Enquirer, this kind of quality, to where it's like, okay, we can dig up real controversial information that doesn't make Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump or some other politician look right. But then to take it to the next level where, they're like, did you know that this particular politician worships the devil and have carved up babies and and brought them to a pizza parlor to make them into cheese or some grotesque. And somehow this actually gets believed now. One of the other things that I'm finding that's more, and I might have addressed this before, but I want you to watch out for. I've seen on Facebook posts dealing with Muslims of conflicts going on in different countries and then being portrayed to be happening in the United States, or with a conflict currently going on. In other words, it's fake in that they're taking real news and turning it into fake news by actually changing its location and the context. And I'm sure that there's something like that in other types of sources as well. So but on the other hand, the internet has more access to information than we ever had quality. And that's the challenge, is to be able to sift through all this. I posted, the discussion, the bombing of Afghanistan, and then this last, before this announcement, I posted about the U.S. relations with Saudi Arabia and the Yemen war. Mainly, this is what I want you just all to realize. Like the Neil Ferguson video, there is a discussion of real superpower competition. And a lot of times it doesn't have to do with morality and ethics. It has to do with interests, strategic interests, money, trade. And then these other things like religion and morality get thrown in by politicians to mobilize us. And I'm saying this, I was telling this to one of my other classes. Over the years, I'll go to lectures by men or women who used to be members of NATO or the UN, some top government official, their post somewhere in the world. And when I see when I've asked these questions, or some of the students or other people in the audience have brought up the questions of ethics and moralities, where they ask the question, well, we say that such and such nation is committing human rights abuses, but then we're supporting this over here. How do we justify that? And it usually gets a response that kind of looks at the person as being naive and silly, and kind of saying, look, of course we don't go to Afghanistan to liberate women. No nation does those kind of things. We have interests. We do it because we've got attacked, or we want to send a message. But this idea that you're going and liberating people, and I saw a former U.S. ambassador actually say, like, oh yeah, I'm sorry that I ever even said things like that. That's obviously silly. And I've seen this time and time again. And what I really kind of realized is that, we watched the documentary and do the discussion on Machiavelli. We have a certain ethics or morality that we're taught, and a sense of ourselves and identity in the West that is not necessarily a part even of the discussion out in the open by the people who are running our states. And I just think that we should focus on that and think about that. Maybe we think that that's wise, but just be aware of it. I don't see the point of my field of being a historian, of it not being something that we utilize to think about ourselves, like the choices that we make as informed citizens. We do live in democratic republics. Most of my students, at least, that are in my classes, unless you're an exchange student. And the idea of living in a democratic republic is that you, as an informed citizen, have a right to put pressure on our representatives to go one direction or the other. And so I'm hoping that as you took this class, whatever your take is on the legacy of our civilization, of the civilization that you now live in, even if you didn't come out of the Western civilization but are now living here permanently or temporarily, that we absorb this in a way that actually helps us to push the world we live in into a better place. I happen to be maybe considered naive. I believe in ethics and morality still. I don't believe in empire. And I realize that that's a complicated position. But I think, I've studied a lot, and I've made my decisions on what I want to, how I want to approach the world. And I change and evolve with that over time as well. I'm inviting you to take your path. This also, it may be different than mine, but if it is as informed as, let's say, Neil Ferguson, then or some other source. In other words, what I'm saying is we can get to the future better if all of us are engaged and are actually debating about what's real and tangible, what's going on in the world. That's enough of that. Now, I know you wanted to hear about the exam. It's really simple, right? You already know what I'm looking for. You've already went over this, and this is the last thing I'm going to say. And this is the blessing for those of you who actually got through my last announcement here. I'm not a mathematician, and I'm not going to take responsibility for this. But if you feel like you have enough points to get the grade you want and you don't want to take the exam, then that's what you can do. But you just got to accept what that looks like. And for many of you who have strong A's, you may not need to take the final exam. Feel free to not take the exam, but if you do that, write to me and let me know that you're not, okay? Just remember that when it comes to your grading, to grades, we're going to finish this Thursday, is when this is due. I will give you time to look at the final grade on Canvas after I grade your exams, and then I want you, if you feel the grade that shows up is not what you should have, excuse me, I need you to contact me right away, because I'm going to make an announcement saying I'm going to post this final grade on PiratesNet, and I want to make sure that we settle this before I do that, okay? So any other questions, just feel free to give me a call, and good luck the rest of the week, and we'll be in touch. It was great having you again. All right, peace be upon you all.